I was in the freshman class when I found I was in a whole new world. And I'm from the East, so coming out here to the Midwest was an experience for me. But shortly after we got all settled into our rooms, I was in King Hall on the third floor. Susan and I had barely enough room to squeeze in there with all our gear.
Susan was?
Hohenhorst.
Your roommate?
And then, yes, my roommate, freshman year. And we looked much like that, moving in. And then it came time for pledging. And that was a lot of fun too, because I got a bid from all 7 sororities.
Wow.
At the time. But I remember I became a TEMer, Towson, and I loved their party they threw for us. In fact, I think the whole campus hated them for throwing that party. At the end of the meal, before we left, they gave us each a little fishbowl. I still have mine on my desk at home. It's now full of paper clips. But at that time, they put on a show to the tunes of South Pacific. And that was our souvenir to take back to our dorm. So everyone who had been invited to their pledge party had these little bowls of goldfish. Well, it was great. Everybody went home happy, put them on their desk, and thought, this will be neat, we'll have a goldfish. But then they started to die. And one by one went down the toilet. Mine lasted to the second or third one from the end.
You had a lucky goldfish.
By that time, it was all over campus. The TEMers and their goldfish, it was quite a legend. But anyway, it was funny. It was a very clever idea, but it wasn't workable. Then everybody wondered what made them sick and die. And the best they could come up with was the water or something in the water. But it didn't take more than a month all the time. So that was a funny tale. But the one that was most serious, I worked for Professor Hassenflug, a part-time job in the art department. And my job was to go in and tear off all the sketches they had and put up a fresh piece of paper. If they were oils, I had to clean all the oil palettes and put out fresh dabs of paint and that kind of thing. And if it's chalk or that, I had to wipe down all the excess chalk. And sometimes I would even put on my leotard in the where they were learning to draw figures and pose. And Professor Hassenflug would have me doing all these different poses, and they would try to sketch. Well, this one day, I started out as usual. I was due to class, and I started over right after that last class to clean up the lab, or the art lab, or art room, they didn't call them that, so I don't know what they called them. But anyway, I come around the corner of Towers Hall from King Hall, and I suddenly realized there was no one anywhere. Campus was vacant. Cars had stopped. No one was there. So I'm looking at what's going on. I knew something major had happened because there was always some car going by. And I got a little further around and I saw the flagpole. Flag was more than half down. Still nobody. I couldn't figure it out. I wondered if it was the president of the college. And I didn't know what to do. I thought, well, you better go over to the lab. That's where you're supposed to work. So I go over, and it was the old house on the corner now. It's a parking lot. Went up the steps and into the lab, and nobody was around. I said, this is strange. They were right in the middle of whatever they were painting. They had oils all out, and they left them. And you don't leave oils out. So I thought, where are they? And then I heard a door click down below. It was Professor Hassenflug. And he hadn't forgotten me, but he came up the stairs, and he says, Kathy, he says, classes have been closed for the rest of the day. He said, come on over to my house. He said, President Kennedy has been shot. And I was absolutely stunned. So he invited me, and a lot of other students had already crammed into his living room. There weren't many TVs on the campus at that time. They were in private homes. And he let us sit there all afternoon. His wife got us sodas and things, and we watched the whole thing on TV. And of course, they reran where the bullets came from the building, and Kennedy falling over, and Jackie there stained in a pink suit with blood. And by the time I got there, those were all reruns. They had moved him to the hospital. And they hadn't yet pronounced him dead, but everybody was pretty sure he was dead. They were preparing the Air Force One, of course, to take them all back to Washington. So later in the day, we learned that after he was pronounced dead, they put him on board the plane, and they had pictures of Johnson being sworn in. And Jackie standing next to him still in her blood-stained suit, and they were being flown back to Washington. There was mention of Oswald. They thought maybe he had something to do with it. And they didn't know at that point whether he did or not. They later caught him in a theater not far from where this all happened. So we were all kind of in a state of shock.
Yeah.
I mean, this was stunning, our president, and he was such a young and vibrant president, and everybody had so much hope for him. And
He's waiting for a bigger audience.
So that,
That's
never
slideshow,
forget.
right?
It's one of
Oh,
those
have you?
things where
Should watch
something
that.
tragic
some color
happens, you
in it
never
too, right?
forget where you
It's not all
were.
black and white.
Well, I was standing in
Our lives
front
were
of
black
the
and white
flag,
till about 1974.
and when they lowered it, or they just lowered it, so that was one of my months. And one last
So what
memory.
you
that
I understand
I'll
you're
tell.
the,
Well, wait a minute, she
One
can get
last
memories
memory.
here. You gotta-
Dave Crippen, another
You stomped on her
freshman
memory,
here,
that's
was
the
my
one.
chemistry partner.
Yes.
Don't mind
The chem
him.
lab, and Dr.
Don't
Craig's
mind him.
I don't
class.
mind my wife. I
And
don't
he did a wonderful job with the formulas, the math,
This is the
and I
last
did a
one.
great job of measuring things,
She's
so
been-
everything turned out the right color, purple, green,
There
whatever
are
it
some
was.
pictures in there.
This one day, we were working away and working away, and this fellow in the back, I forget who it was, did this experiment on me, ended up making bromine.
I was gonna bring some
Bromine
pictures
is
of
a
my brownie
reddish
hot.
gas.
Yes.
Aren't
And
they
it
finished?
can
Well,
your skin, it leaves, you know, like a bubble burn, and it stains you.
Yeah.
if you're lucky, you could get.
Dr. Crank is so excited. He
wow.
comes running down, the windows are all on the bottom floor, and even in the new building.
Yes.
And they used to do these old windows with the ropes that, you know, to pull them up and down, and he's flying blue, he said, get out, so here we are, all crawling out the windows out of the side of the building, and everybody's wondering, where the window.
Oh, my God.
And bromine is filling up the room.
He picked out.
That was a little scary, but it was funny.
Good job again.
Because people said, what were you doing over there today? We were
Oh, same
opening out
here.
the windows.
I
And
took pictures all through.
Professor Penny was
Standing
encouraging
hall,
us to
yeah.
get out fast.
I wasn't interested in all that.
So that was really funny. But I thought
Main
probably
hall is
called,
women's dorm this
but
way.
that's enough for me. But we had good
And
times.
this replaced some hall, but he'd never
As
seen
well
the
as
color
that.
pictures of some hall, Copperthwaite hall,
you-
Lambert hall.
There's one, maybe I'll put one more sad story, although I don't like the end of the
It's
sentence.
sat right over here.
Then you'll have to tell us what happened.
Which was the TNC house.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
Judy
where I was.
Fitzgerald was also
You were a photographer, right?
in
No,
our
no,
class.
production man.
Senior
Oh,
year,
really?
I think.
This is the second
Year.
color picture
She and
we
her
ever
boyfriend.
produced. I got the first one.
Where'd you have to send it?
They were all one of those rows of
Well,
Printed in Columbus?
fields at that time, everything
We
was
built
farm.
it as offset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
First
we
year we
lost
built a nice little house,
control.
before they
Did
tore it
it
down. In the second
so hard,
year,
it
we
left
had an
the
office
impact
down in the basement,
of
in a room that's part of the theater now. And I had a great big tasting that I designed it, and
And I was
Arnwine
stunned.
helped me build it up here.
Absolutely
But it was
stunned.
set up to build the big newspaper.
Yes, well, I'm
And I
catching.
can still
Like
remember
Carlos
and
Tom's
hear
dream
in
team.
my mind
Don Carlos, you took.
our
But I
whole
got it. I
freshman
remember
year.
his 42
Wonderful
point game.
pianist.
I've never seen him
how every
like.
play had play.
Oh,
He's in
Every
here someplace.
about 4 or 5 times.
I didn't realize he was still playing that late.
Playing. And it just seemed kind of a
And
bittersweet,
Tim Pond must be in
but
it
almost a
somewhere.
foretelling.
They were kind of a, no, Tim Pond.
And
Yeah.
that was a very sad
Probably
thing.
him.
It was very hard. She lived in.
Yeah.
Oh, Tim, yeah. He was a little guy.
Yeah.
He was a
They were quite the, team, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And let's see, now let me find a funny one to tell. Oh, well, this
Well, I
one,
transferred-
it's not really too bad, but this Tyler used to be a phys ed
Came out
teacher.
last 8 years.
yes.
Dr. J.
I see.
And-
Oh, okay.
It was Joanne Tyler, I think.
So I was here
Joanne
from 64,
Tyler, right.
65, and graduated.
And it was over here by,
Oh,
you
okay.
know, where the little steps go down.
Yeah, I
into
kept
the
up with
park
you. The best thing I
over
picked
here,
up
behind
was
the
my
pink
wife.
wall. Well, it wasn't very fancy in those days, it's like a wood.
Really?
A
52.
path.
She came out of Dr. Banforce's
And
class.
she had us on that little hill trying to
Yeah.
hit golf balls.
Haven't heard of
math.
I took all.
She was a math major, because there weren't too many girls in the math
So
department.
I'm down.
You know, you'll see Dr. Gambo's picture pop up.
Everybody else has
About
completely
45 pictures down the
done
road.
the thing that they were supposed to do.
I watched the slides.
So
This
Miss
is a good
Tyler comes
slideshow.
over to
Well,
me,
you'll
she
see
says
tonight,
to me,
you'll do
she says,
Oh, good,
Kathy,
okay.
you should be an
Super.
excellent golf player. I looked
Yeah.
at me surprised, she said, you're flat chested.
The physics department was, Barnhart, he was my advisor.
Right to the heart.
But she was quite flexible. She said, see, I can do it.
Well, I
She
was only
hit
there
you.
for 2 years on a computer, so I didn't get to
But I
know.
never forgot that. It was
I
funny
didn't
after
know
a
how.
while. And I was so smart when she
Keep
did
me out
that.
about everything.
So those are the
There's
kinds
a
of things we did.
math department, and then there's
That's
a
wonderful.
science department coming up.
We worked hard. But it was fun. And memories that have been with me.
Bob Agro, he's
Can't beat that.
No, you can't.
Wrote a book about it. He was, his dad was a
That's
missionary.